Hello. Hopefully this is all working. Um, Lovely to see you guys that are already here. I'll just say hi to everyone that should be here at the moment. So, hello to TM Martin, Jenny13248. Why do you have numbers in your name? So weird. Hello to Dr. Collectible. Hello to Nathan. Hello to King K. Oh my god, more people. Hiya. Hello to Dave H. Hello to Ten Will Dude. And hello to the Exploding Bacon. I will make myself disappear from my laptop because I don't want to be seeing my face in the corner of the screen. But hello again. Hello to everyone. So in today's video, we will be discussing the latest episode of Doctor Who, episode 2, The Ghost Monument. And hopefully we won't be going for as long as we did last week, because that was a very long time, and I didn't mind it, don't get me wrong, but I don't know, I feel like maybe that was bound to be a long one, because it's the first episode of a new series, and we had so much to discuss. And we still do with this episode, really, but I don't know, we'll have to see. We'll have to see how long my voice holds out for as well. I might just have a quick sip of my drink now. Um, yeah, so I don't know whether to try and give this a structure because last week I would just read out comments and then gradually bring in my thoughts. Yet again, I've done a list of things I liked and things I disliked. Um, yeah, I think it worked last week, so we might as well carry on doing that really. And hopefully, all your messages will lead in nicely to my thoughts on the episode. So, hello to everyone. I'm no longer going to do individual hellos because we'll be here all day if I do that. But hello to absolutely everyone that's here, all 20 of you. Thank you very much for joining. Um, right. So, right, Gaming Nerd is already on to something that is one of my points, so this is perfect. So they've said, I think the Stenza is a theme like Bad Wolf. So yeah, I think even though Chris Chibnall said we're having no series arcs this year, I think that was one of the things he was lying about, which is good because I love series arcs. As long as they're subtle and not done over the top like a lot of Stephen Moffat's ones were. Um, so yes, from this episode, it looks like we've got not one, but two series arcs. So the first one is, as Gaming Nerd mentioned, the Stenza. They seem to be the big bad of the series. So obviously we had Tim Shaw in episode 1. They were mentioned in this episode, and I think they were the reason why Desolation was desolated, basically, and just a death trap to everyone that was in it. So it does look increasingly likely that the Stenza will be returning maybe in the series finale, and we might see Tim Shaw again, which would be quite cool. Yeah, so that's one thing. And the other series arc, seeing as this flows on nicely, I might as well mention it now, is the mention of the Timeless Child. So it was a very brief thing that some of you may have missed. But basically, when the weird curtain type creatures were surrounding the Doctor and her friends, um, I think they had the power to pick up on people's inner fears, and they, being around the Doctor, they picked up on her fears, and it turns out there's a really deep fear, something from her childhood on Gallifrey, and they call it the Timeless Child. And we have no idea what that is at the moment, so it looks like that's being set up to be covered in future episodes as well. Yeah, so fire away in the messages what your theory as to who this Timeless Child is. Initially, I thought it would be the Doctor herself, something she forgot about involving her own backstory. But since the episode aired, in that hour we've had to dwell on everything that's gone on, I've begun to think maybe it's a secret sibling. That would be quite interesting. The only problem is, well, it's not really a problem, but it makes it unoriginal. Sherlock has already gone down that story route, fans of Sherlock, if any of you are, in the final episode of Series 4, it was revealed that Sherlock has a secret sister that he blocked out of his memory because he was traumatized. I'm not going to get into the plot of that because obviously we're here to talk about Doctor Who. But I'm sensing similarities between the two. So maybe something really traumatic happened in the Doctor's childhood, and for whatever reason, she or he at the time forgot about this sibling. And maybe that sibling will be like a big bad at the end of the series. So I'm very curious to see where this all goes. Oh, lovely. A nice lead on to another point that I wanted to mention. So Doctor Who fan #OneWhovian asks, what do I think of the new interior? So I'm going to answer this, and while I'm answering it, please do message away your thoughts as well, because I'd love to hear it. I absolutely adore it. I think it looks stunning. Where do I even begin? Just let me open up my document that I made, because I'll try to make as many notes on that as possible. Yeah, so I love the crystal theme that it's got. I love the colour scheme, how it's all orangey yellow, just like the Doctor's new Sonic, and her hair. Her hair is blonde, not orange, but you get my point, hopefully. I love the custard cream dispenser. It's entirely pointless, but funny all the same. And fun fact for you guys that you may not be aware of, custard creams are apparently Jodie Whittaker's favourite biscuit. So that's why the designer added them. That was mentioned in a fun video the BBC released an hour ago. What else did it have? It had a sand timer as well that the 13th Doctor flipped over, and I loved that. That's a nice reminder that it's a time machine. There was a tiny TARDIS sculpture sort of thing that span round. That was cool. I love the walls as well, the sort of weaving pattern. We've got gaps in between it and they all cross over. I love how spacious it is. I love how it's reminiscent of the 9th and 10th Doctor's TARDIS as well. It's very organic, very dark as well, and not as mechanical as the 12th Doctor's TARDIS. Yeah, so I love it. And that whole ending scene I just thought was beautiful. And it was nice that not only did we experience the TARDIS with the companions, as we usually do, but we actually got to experience it with the Doctor as well. Because obviously she hasn't seen it be updated. And obviously we had that play on the famous line, you've redecorated, I don't like it, but changing it to I like it or I love it. Because it's amazing. It's really good. But yeah, so that ending was brilliant. Just as good as the cliffhanger ending that we had last week. Yeah, I'm sure we'll be talking about the ending scene a lot in this video. Before I read the messages again, very quickly, in case you haven't already noticed, I think in that corner there, if you click on the cards, I've got 2 polls open. So one is a rating of the Ghost Monument. So you can either say that you loved it, liked it, thought it was okay, disliked it, or hated it. Hopefully none of you guys disliked it, but to each their own. And then underneath that is a separate question saying which episode from Series 11 is your favourite so far. So obviously we've only had 2 episodes so far, but I'm curious to see if you think this week's episode is better or worse or the same as last week's one. So if you've got a chance, while I'm nattering away reading out your messages, do click on those options. And I'm not sure if it's possible for me to see the results live. Hopefully I can, otherwise it's a bit pointless me doing that. Although I suppose I could always check up on it after I finish the stream. But anyway. So, Mr. Dragoman did not like the interior. That's a shame. A big shame, actually, considering this is the TARDIS that we're going to be having for the next few years. Please do let me know what it is about it you didn't like, because I'm curious to know. Doctor Collectible, loved the new TARDIS interior. Green Emeralds, to me this episode just felt boring and anticlimactic. The best bit was the title sequence and the TARDIS at the end. So there's lots of things to talk about from this, so thank you for your message, Green Emeralds. So we've already spoken about the ending scene and the TARDIS. So let's refer to your mention of the episode feeling boring and anticlimactic. Yeah, so the plot. It was interesting. It was a good episode in my eyes. But I do see where you're coming from. There's just something missing in Chris Chibnall's scripts, I find, at the moment. Just the plot isn't as exciting as it could be. I think I liked the concept of it being a race. I loved the planet, Desolation, and how everything was basically a death trap. But yes, I just felt like the actual execution, the race, bearing in mind this is the end of the race, and I forget their names, Exo and Angstrom, is that their names? Very alien sounding names. Yeah, you would have thought because it's the end of the race, it would be really exciting, but it just really isn't. There's just a lot of talking scenes, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but sometimes you need the plot to carry things forward, really. And what else were you saying? Anticlimactic? Yeah, I suppose so. The title sequence, though, that was amazing. Short and sweet, basically. We all heard the theme last week, so we know what that was going to be like, but I do love the underlying drums of it all. That's really cool. I like how it begins pulsing as well. You've got the purpley blue colours and it's pulsing in time with the music. And then throughout the rest of the title sequence, you've got this, I don't really know what the effect's called, but it's like spreading outwards, just like it did in William Hartnell's era. So that's a nice callback. And yeah, I was more surprised at how quickly it had finished as well. Because we've got so used to the title sequences being like a minute long at least, and this one is about 30 seconds. So, you know, it's not necessarily a bad thing. What I didn't like, though, was how the series producer and the director are actually mentioned in the title sequence now. That felt a bit weird to me. Just going to have a quick sip of water. Already on it. But yeah, no, I really like the new opening titles. And another thing I forgot to mention, the dissolving of the actual Doctor Who logo, how it dissolves in, even though I don't know what the word is that's the opposite of dissolving, but hopefully you get what I mean. TM Martin, Dr. Blue, get hot water and lemon to save your voice since you do not like tea, lol. Yes, I should do that, but it's too late now. I've started this stream and I don't want to be leaving halfway through. Maybe next time. But to be honest, I don't like hot water. But anyway, I digress. Dave H doesn't like the new TARDIS. They think it's too dark. That's fair enough. Yeah, the TARDIS can't appeal to everyone. I personally like the fact it's dark. In theory, that shouldn't really work because Jodie's Doctor is quite light-hearted. But I think the fact the actual colour of the TARDIS is orangey yellow, and I think there's a couple of blues in there as well, that brightens it up. But no, I don't know. I like the darkness though. I'm trying to think of a clever explanation why, but nothing's coming to mind. It makes it. I don't know. It makes it real for me. I don't know why. I can't explain that point. I think I more liked it because just like when Bill Potts entered the TARDIS for the first time in Series 10, it's cool to enter the TARDIS and not see everything straight away. So in that brilliant shot where Doctor 13 walks through and you can see the walls, but it's all dark and you've got smoke coming out, I just really liked that. And then how the camera followed her along, and then you would actually discover the TARDIS with her. Yeah. Anyway, I love the TARDIS so much. Mr. Dragoman, the TARDIS interior screamed the movie interior to them. Yeah, it's quite similar to that one, I suppose, but different as well, because the movie one was more gothic, and sure, it also had the I'm bad with words. I've no idea what it's called, but those things that are on the side. So obviously you've got the console in the middle, and then you've got these. I don't know what they're called. Help me out, please. Yeah, so it's nice that they're back because obviously I don't think either Matt Smith TARDIS had them. I may be wrong. Anyway, what was my point again? Movie interior. Yeah, but it is different because you don't have the chairs and you don't have the library sort of thing that's going on. But it is very similar, don't get me wrong. 10 Wheel Dude, the interior was definitely a riff on 9 and 10s. Love it. Yep, so exactly like I was saying. Random Anime Fan 1412 felt like the pace of the episode was wrong. Yeah, so it's going back to the plot again. This just... I know I've already said this, and sorry for repeating myself, but with Chris Chibnall's episodes, I do feel like there's some pacing issue where it's always jumping about too quickly. Some scenes go on for too long. Characters suddenly arrive in places, and yeah, so hopefully that's something he'll improve on in future episodes, and hopefully next week's episode will be better in that regard, because we've got our first guest writer of the series, Mallory Blackman, who's a very good actress, writer, author even. Yeah, so she's renowned for doing the Noughts and Crosses book series, if any of you guys have ever read that. And she also did a Doctor Who book, I think for the 50th anniversary, when there was that 12 Doctors, 12 stories set. I've yet to finish them all myself, but I think I've read Mallory Blackman's at least. But yeah, so the pace, I do agree, Random Anime Fan 1412, it was a bit off, I found. Tracy Beacon Memories, great name. What do you think of Bradley Walsh? I really like him. I like how we've got an older companion in the TARDIS. It makes a nice change from all the young ones that we've had over the years. I like how he's still sort of reluctant to do things. I like how he's trying really hard to relate to Ryan and look after him. Yeah, and I just love Bradley Walsh himself. I loved him before he was in Doctor Who and before I'd seen him act. He's just a really funny guy. And that's another thing. The behind the scenes we now get. I'm not sure if you guys have seen the one where he's stealing all the mini cheddars when he's on the train. That's hilarious. And I'm sure we'll get plenty of videos like that as the weeks progress. So that makes it all worth it, really. He could be a really naff character, but those funny behind the scenes things would make it all worth it. Mr. Drago Man, Bradley is God. Yep, exactly. Then they're joking about them being God. No, Bradley Walsh is God. Oh, interesting. So Tracy Beaker's Memories doesn't actually rate Bradley Walsh's acting. What is it? Do you think he's not a good actor, Tracy Beaker's Memories? Do you think it's unrealistic? Do you not believe him as a character? Let me know. Mr. Dragoman, imagine if Rusty killed Tim Shaw, lol. Yeah, that would, I don't even know how I'd react to that. Rusty is a weird character for me. I know he's only appeared in 2 episodes, but I just don't like the idea of a good Dalek. I think he was okay in Into the Dalek, because that was the whole plot of the episode. And then you could argue he wasn't... Well, yeah, he wasn't a good Dalek in the end, because I think he actually did kill some soldiers. But I didn't like how he came back in Twice Upon a Time. And I hope he's never brought back again. So, no, I would not like him to kill Tim Shaw. TM Martin, did you buy the human companions being out in space? Oh, right, I thought you were asking if I bought something then. Did you buy the human companions being out in space and surviving, and the whole crew being conveniently scooped up as bonuses in the nick of time? Good point. I suppose I did buy it really, uh, because let's face it, we all knew that they would survive being in space. Like the trailers gave it away, for instance, and we needed a realistic explanation for how they didn't suffocate, basically. So yeah, I just bought it because it's convenient and you need the plot to carry on. And I actually really liked the opening 10 minutes where they're separated out onto two different ships. You've got the Doctor and Yaz on one ship, and Ryan and Graham on the other, and you've got a nice jumping between the two groups. That was cool. I really liked that. And then I liked the fact that the Doctor's ship crashes onto the planet and nearly hits Ryan and Graham and Angstrom. I think that's her name. That was just a really cool effects piece and action sequence. Um, yeah, so no, I do get where you're coming from. It is very convenient that they were picked up in the nick of time, but we just have to accept it really because the alternative is them dying in space and then that either being the end of the series, which none of us would want, or the other characters would have to conveniently revive them, and I think that creates more problems, to be honest. Luke NUFC, Bradley is life, exactly. Um, Another brilliant point here from Doctor Who fan, hashtag one Whovian, that's going to always take me a while to say. They didn't like the cloth creatures, and they're called the Remnants, for future reference. Yeah, so the Remnants. God. They were okay. They were intimidating, and they did have cool voices behind them. But for me, they appeared too late in the episode for me to care about them and be that intimidated. I tried to check before this live stream actually, and I think they appear about 35 minutes in. So you've only got 12 minutes left of the episode basically, and that is the first time you see them. Which isn't necessarily a bad thing, but it means you have less time for them to be a threat for all the characters. But yeah, I just struggle to take them seriously because they are bits of cloth. And sure, they can strangle you, but it's just weird that we've got a creature that is a cloth. I know Doctor Who is known for being quirky, but I am struggling to take them seriously, to be honest. What else can I say? And yeah, so another point that leads on from this. Doctor Who doesn't need deaths all the time just to satisfy my evil desire to see people die, but often that does help to make a villain a threat, and the fact that not a single person died in this episode makes both the cloth creatures, the remnants, and the robot guards just really not threatening. And because I've just mentioned them, I might as well carry on. The robot guards, I found them unoriginal. Obviously, Doctor Who and many sci-fi shows have had plenty of robot guards in the past. And did I say they were forgettable? If not, I've just said it then. Yeah, they only appear in the middle of the episode for that action sequence in the ruins. And yeah, I just found them dull as well, to be honest. And it's a shame because I got quite excited to see them. And actually, it was a photo that they were in back when the episode was filmed months ago now. There was a photo showing the ruins, and one of those robot guards was in the distance and just a shadow. And lots of fans were speculating that it could be Sontarans returning, Jadoon, I think they looked like from the silhouette. And I know there's no shame in not bringing back old favourite villains and stuff, and it's good to create new ones, but actually create something that's new. Don't just do robot guards that look slightly differently. Yeah, so the villains of this episode I wasn't a big fan of, to be honest, but let me know what you guys made of it all. Geo, did we get an explanation for why the planet was taken from orbit and replaced? I don't think we did, to be honest, and I completely forgot about that until you just mentioned it. Um, Maybe it was all the experiments the scientists were doing. It somehow shunted the planet out of orbit, or maybe it was just a thing that happened over time. Um, every year, the orbit would slightly change by an angle, maybe, and so it was just the Doctor's calculations that missed it by a few years, maybe. I don't know. But that's a very good point that you raise. Oh my god, we've been going for 20 minutes, 25 minutes already. Very quickly, I'm going to see if any of you guys have been answering my poll that I put on the video. Do I have to vote myself in order to see it? Oh, it looks like I'm the only one that's using it. Fair enough. You don't have to answer the poll if you don't want to. Is that right though? I have no idea. It's saying 100% of people when I click on an option, so theoretically that means I'm the only one voting. Which episode did I like more? Did I like episode 1 or episode 2? I'm going to say both. Okay, I guess it is just me using the poll. Never mind, at least we're talking. Doctor Who fan #OneWhovian thinks that Captain Jack is the timeless child. That would be cool. But I feel like that's unlikely. Just realised my face is now on my laptop again. Shut that down. Yes, it's... So I would believe that, or something along those lines, were it not for the fact the Remnants talked about it being something from the Doctor's childhood. I doubt a time agent would be involved in that. Yeah, I would love Captain Jack to come back, and I've said this many a time, but I don't... he shouldn't be the series arc, really. Tracy Beacon Memories. I didn't like Tim Shaw. He's what I call a Sarah Jane Adventures alien, meaning aliens I think are naff and would fit better in a children's show. Rather than Doctor Who itself. That's fair enough. I quite liked him myself. I was creeped out when I first saw his face and the teeth on him. I liked the concept of him, and I thought he was threatening, and the way he killed people, you couldn't have had that on the Sarah Jane Adventures. Freezing their faces and then ripping their teeth out and dislocating people's jaws in the process. So I beg to differ with that. I think he was perfectly suited to Doctor Who, but to each their own. 10-Wheel Dude. Don't basically all of Gallifrey's prophecies turn out to be about the Doctor? True. True. Yeah. And I must admit, there is a bit of me that's worried, because part of the appeal of Doctor Who and why it works is we never find out much about the Doctor's childhood and life on Gallifrey. And it's fine for us to get little teases, like the hybrid, even though that was handled terribly. And obviously we actually saw the Doctor as a child in Listen. That's fine, as long as we don't learn too much about him. So I do feel like Chris Chibnall has to walk a very fine line here to make it interesting, but not ruin the character in the process, or make the show lose some mystery behind the Doctor, because otherwise we'll know absolutely everything about her and she'll not be as much of a mysterious enigma, if that makes sense. Gaming Nerd. In Listen, it says he will never make a Time Lord, so I think it might be related. Ooh! So what, are you saying there's a chance that the Doctor might not be a Time Lord? He will never make a Time Lord. Yeah, well, at the very least, I hope it's related to that. Geo, because of the teaser we got with Adipose 3, Shalakatop, etc., I thought it was a reference to the Stolen Earth. What was that you thought was a reference to the Stolen Earth? I don't know. Mr. Dragoman thinks BBC has run out of ideas. Well, it's still early in the series. I like to think it still has plenty of ideas. because Doctor Who is such a broad show and it can be absolutely anything. Motorhawk 2 thinks that the Timeless Child could be Susan. That's a very good point. Yeah, that could work, and I would love to see Susan again. I don't know, would I accept it if they recast Susan? Probably not. I don't really like it when people get recast. Yeah, no, we'll have to wait and see. It just all goes back to the fact Chris Chibnall has said there'll be no returning characters or monsters this year. So for now, I'm trying to think as creatively as possible. And just thinking of things that we've never seen before, which is why I thought Sibling. Tracy Beacon Memories thinks 3 companions is too many. That's fair enough. Yeah, it is a lot of companions, but I think for now it's working. I like them all, and I think it's nice. It's like a family unit inside the TARDIS, and it's something different. Because it's been ages since we've had 4 people in the TARDIS, and it's also nice because it harks back to the original series. The William Hartnell era showed that 4, nearly said 4 companions then, that would be too many, I think. Yeah, 4 people in the TARDIS. The William Hartnell series showed that that could work. Yeah, so I think it's working, to be fair. And I like how we've got different ages. We've got young with Yaz and Ryan. We've got old with Graham, and then we've got very old, incredibly old, with the Doctor. Doctor Collectible, what would you rate the episode out of 10? Oh, good question. So last week, I think I rated The Woman Who Fell to Earth a 7.5. But I don't know how I would rate this one compared to last week's. I'm going to be cheeky, lazy, whatever word you want to call it, and give it the exact same score, I think, for now. No doubt it will change once I've rewatched the episode many a time. But yeah, so just like with last week's episode, I really enjoyed it. I thought the cinematography was great, and loads of other points that I'll bring into the conversation later on. But it wasn't perfect. I've already mentioned about the plot. That was lacking. Was there any other dislikes I've already mentioned? No deaths, I wasn't a fan of. That doesn't make it a bad episode, but episodes with no deaths don't really stand out as much for me. The villains we mentioned as well. Yeah. So that's what knocks it a few pegs. 7.5? Yeah. Yeah, I'll give it a solid 7.5. TM Martin, 13 tamped Ryan down. Not sure if you meant to say tamped there. Tamped Ryan down on using guns and used an EMP to cut down the sniper bots. You think that's an anti-gun message? And funny how the EMP did not impact the new Sonic. Yeah, so I think that is an anti-gun message, to be honest. But there's nothing wrong with that because the Doctor has always been against using guns. And that's a very good point about how come the EMP didn't knock out the Sonic as well. I guess because it's tuned differently. I don't know. Because the Sonic is more advanced alien technology. I don't know. Maybe we're just nitpicking here. The Doctor Who Expert 7 is really happy that the TARDIS is back. Me too. Me too. Dave H didn't like the title sequence. Okay. And oh my god, I've just realised I am about 27 minutes behind on the chat. Just like last week. This is going to be a recurring theme. This is like my series arc now, trying to be able to interact in real time and not always waffle on like I'm doing now. Hopefully it's fine though. Hopefully you don't mind if I read your comments ages away in the future. I suppose it encourages you to stick around, maybe. I don't know. Yeah, so Dave, let me know what you didn't like about the title sequence. Did you think it was too short? Did you just not like the style of it? Geo, console room is a bit dark to see what's going on, I felt. Fair enough, fair enough. I disagree. I feel like you can see perfectly, but to each their own. While we're on the title sequence, actually, I quite liked how we went straight into it. Um, I do hope we do get a return to the pre-titles like teaser and cliffhanger because I love them, and I love going in from a scene, hearing the Doctor Who, the beginning of the Doctor Who theme. I was going to sing it then, but that would have been awkward and embarrassing. Um, yeah, I do enjoy that leading into the title sequence. So I do, in a way, hope this was just a one-off, beginning straight with the title sequence. But then, having said that, they probably will keep to this style in the future. I think there's a good chance every episode will begin with the title sequence, and will then end with that beginning of the Doctor Who theme. We won't have a next time trailer immediately. That will follow the credits, just like it did with today's episode. Um, yeah, and actually, because I've mentioned that, the trailer, I still don't think Series 11 is doing that good with the trailers, really. Don't get me wrong, this was a lot better than the Coming Soon trailer we had last week, but they don't excite me. Um, and I'm just really surprised because I am so excited for next week's episode with Rosa Parks because I've wanted a return to historical episodes with famous figures for ages. Because I think it was Vincent and the Doctor. That was the last time we actually had a historical figure. So that was 8 years ago, unless I'm missing an episode. Yeah, so I'm so excited for that episode, and I was really curious to see what they would show in the trailer. And sure, it was good that they showed action and dialogue and interesting scenes. But I think it was too short, just like the TV trailer that was shown immediately afterwards. And yeah, it feels off. Yeah, I feel like the trailers aren't as good as they've been in previous years. I'm not saying Series 10 did better trailers. Um, I'll have to check them actually and see what Thin Ice, what the trailer for that episode was like compared to this one. I get the feeling it was better from what I can remember. But yeah, no, I really hope that BBC ups their game with the trailers because they are too short and I just don't think they're interesting. TM Martin. I did not like the announcer voiceover at the end. Just let the theme music play and the credits rolled too fast, don't you think? I don't, to be honest. I don't think for me there was an announcer talking over it. Yeah. I certainly don't remember that. With some programs, when the credits roll, everything gets squeezed up into a box. Hate that. I don't think that happened with Doctor Who, and usually, if that happens, there's an announcer talking at the same time. So that might have been just where you are, TM Martin, if you're not in the UK. As for them rolling too quickly, I thought the speed was fine. Mr. Drago Man has just mentioned about voting in the poll. Let's see if anyone else has done that as well. If it's even possible for me to see votes. No, I can't see anything. Let me know in the messages, guys, if you've actually voted in the poll, and then I'll be able to do something about it later on and try and establish why I'm not seeing any results. Maybe I have to finish the stream before I can see it. But yeah, no, it's fair enough if none of you want to vote in the poll. You don't have to. I just thought it would be a fun way to gauge what everyone makes of the episode, really. 10 Wheel Dude. Another character-driven episode, and I think it works. Jodie's acting is good, but still pretty hyperactive. Hoping for some calmer moments in week 3. Give her a chance to be ahead of everyone else. Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, to be honest. Yeah, so Chris Chibnall does like to focus on his characters, it seems, more than the plot. which could be a problem. Well, it is already a problem, kind of. But at the same time, we are in the first two episodes, and I do think it's more important to become attached to these characters. But at the same time, you do need a good plot to go with it. But for the most part, I think the plots of both episodes have been good. But yeah, she is quite hyperactive, isn't she? And I think that's something that I didn't really know what to make of last week. I don't think I noticed it as much this time. But yeah, it's weird. Don't get me wrong, I do really enjoy Jodie Whittaker's Doctor, but I'm struggling to pin her down at the moment. Like, I know I keep saying she's excitable and optimistic and stuff, but in all honesty, I don't properly believe that. She is, so I suppose it is true, but I just feel like there's better words to describe her, but I'm not understanding it myself yet. Like, Capaldi, quite obviously, was the blunt, darker Doctor in his first series, and then he became like a professor type figure. But with Jodie's Doctor, I'm seeing a combination of Doctors, and I'm not really understanding who she is yet, but I still really enjoy her performance. Linton, hello, just subscribed. Oh, thank you very much. Welcome. Motorhawk 2, could the Timeless Child be Susan as she was left on Earth and is not on Gallifrey and most people have forgotten her? Yeah, so someone else mentioned Susan. Yeah, that would be interesting if she came back. But yeah, the only thing that's making me not believe it's her straight away is the fact I'm pretty sure the cloth creatures mentioned it was something from the Doctor's childhood rather than past. I'll have to double check that. And also it's the fact that Chris Chibnall has said no monsters or characters from before will be returning, but then he could easily be trolling us. We don't know. But it would be cool if we saw Susan again. TM Martin, this episode was head and shoulders above last week, even though it was like the Hunger Games meets Running Man. Yeah, good point. So you preferred this episode then, did you, TM Martin? That's fair enough. I suppose this episode did have a lot in its favour in that it didn't have to establish anything. They could get straight on with the plot and build up the character relationships without having to worry about establishing the Doctor, all three new companions, and the style and the tone and all that. So yeah, there wasn't as much riding on this episode. Doctor Who fan, #1Whovian. I was expecting the new aliens were Sontarans, but upgraded. Yeah, so this goes back to what we were saying before. When I think it was a leaked photo actually, I don't think it was meant to come out. When that photo was shown and you could see them on the horizon in the background. Yeah, one of the things people immediately assumed is that they were new versions of the Sontarans. So it is a shame that they weren't that. SL Productions, hello there. What do you think the Timeless Child is? Well, if you weren't here when I mentioned it earlier, I like to think it's a secret sibling of the Doctor. I think that would be a really cool, interesting route to go down, even though Sherlock has basically already done it before. Tracy Beacon Memories, I like your 13th Doctor figure in the background. Thank you very much. Last week, I'm not sure if you were here last week, but for pretty much the entire 2.5-hour video, I forgot that I put her there. The reason I put her on my table, because usually she's up here on the shelf. Oh, you can't really see it at the moment. You can see the Slitheen though. Yeah, I think what I wanted to do was hold her up while I was talking about the 13th Doctor, but I just completely forgot she was there. So she just sat there throughout most of the video, and then someone was kind enough to mention her, and then that's when I was finally reminded that she was actually behind me. So yeah, there she is. Good old Jodie. Ten-Wheel Dude, the ending felt a bit rushed, I think. Some cracking jokes this time though. Was in stitches over the "I thought you didn't care about anything" retort the Doctor came back with. A bit Tennant, perhaps. That's interesting that you found the ending rushed, because I thought it was perfectly paced. I felt like we had enough time to walk into the TARDIS and experience it with the Doctor. Um, and really, there wasn't much they could have cut out from that scene or added to make it longer. So yeah, I quite like the pacing of that ending. And what was the other thing you said? It was a funny episode. Yeah, I mean, I still didn't really laugh out loud at anything, but I think that's more me than anything. I'm very sort of shy when watching things. I don't express emotion. It's all sort of contained within me. I know that sounds really weird, but it's what I'm like. Um, but yeah, and you've mentioned a bit like Tennant. Yeah, I'm getting a lot of David Tennant vibes from her as well. Dave H, I think they made a mistake having Ryan with dyspraxia because you see him run and fall, the next time he runs fine. Good point. And I did want to mention dyspraxia, actually, if I can even say it properly. Dyspraxia, there we go. Yeah, so the point I was going to make about Ryan's condition, is it a condition? Hopefully I'm not being offensive in saying that. I like how it's still present, but it's not made too, what's the word? It's not gone on about too much. It's not referenced too many times. So basically, Chris Chibnall hasn't forgot about it, because obviously a big issue with Stephen Moffat is he would establish things about characters and then forget about them later on in different episodes. So it's nice that the characters are all aware of Ryan's dyspraxia still, and he's worried about it. But yeah, no, I completely forgot about the whole running thing. I suppose, well, it's a coordination disorder, isn't it? So in running, do you have to be that coordinated? I don't know. I really don't know much about dyspraxia, to be honest. So I don't want to pretend that I'm an expert when I'm far from it. But I suppose he was definitely helped when running away from the robot guards, because the idea was they did have to run in different directions, because I think the Doctor said the robot guards were locking on to where they predicted they would go. So his dyspraxia must have helped then. But yeah, no, if there's ever a time where he has to be coordinated, hopefully there won't be any plot holes in that. And the writers will remember, oh, hang on, Ryan will struggle with this. But yeah, no, I do. So I think it was mentioned in a scene where he had to climb up a ladder. And I quite like that scene, actually, because the Doctor was very encouraging of him. And then I think at the end, she's like, oh, but you do still need to hurry up. And that was quite funny. I did like that. But yeah, no, as I said last week, I like the fact we've got a companion with a disability. Because no one's invincible, really. We've all got our own issues in life. And so it's nice to reflect that in the show and not just show off these perfect people. Philip Hawkins has a long shot theory as to what the Timeless Child is in their review. Very nice. Oh, fun fact from T.M. Martin. For your information, actress Susan Lynch played Angstrom from that bickering space duo. That's a good way to describe them, actually. And you might recognise her from her role as Anna in the other hot series, Killing Eve. I've heard good things about Killing Eve, but I've yet to watch it myself, so this was the first thing I've seen her in, I think. Sean Dooley, on the other hand, I have seen before. I've seen him in Broadchurch, which was another show that Chris Chibnall has been in charge of. And Jodie Whittaker is famous for her role in that as well. But it was in Misfits that I loved him. He's a very good actor, and he played an aggressive probation worker that was secretly gay, and he made it a very believable character, and I found him quite funny as well. Geo, I wonder if ladders will be a plot point in all the episodes. Now that would be a funny series arc. Every single episode having a ladder in it. But yeah, no, you raise a good point. In both Chris Chibnall episodes, they've had to climb something. And actually, yeah, you've just reminded me. There was that good joke towards the start where Graham mentions the fact that they keep having stuff implanted in them. Because obviously last week we had the DNA bombs that Bradley Walsh's character kept banging on about. And then this week we had the translator type thing. I didn't pick up on what it's called. But yeah, so that was funny. Oh, sorry, no, I've just read Nathan Marlowe's message and I did not know this. I really hope it's true. So Nathan is saying the new intro is made by John Smith VFX, who did YouTube stuff before. Impressive how he's done the intro. I liked it. So it's John Smith. He's the one that also did the Capaldi titles, isn't he? So that's incredible if they've gone back to him yet again for the title sequence. I'll have to look into that and see if there's like a similar one on YouTube. Tracy Beaker's Memories. I like the custard cream. Yeah, me too. And it's a great biscuit as well, so that makes me want to travel with the Doctor even more. King K, I think we needed a long shot of the TARDIS interior, like not close to the characters though. I thought we did get a long shot of the TARDIS though, right at the end. We got a nice big view of them all standing there, unless you mean something else. King K, yes, I was talking about the pillars earlier, and the name just completely escaped my mind, so thank you very much for that. TM Martin, I noticed all the blue flourishes in the new TARDIS, which is the shade of the sea and the sky, and it's thought to induce calm and convey tranquility, serenity, and peace. Wow, you're very good at English. Yeah, I suppose that's the big reason why I like the colour blue. I've never really thought of that. It brings calmness, essentially, yeah. Yeah, so I love the fact the new TARDIS is bringing blue back into things as well. But I do love how the main colour is the orangey yellow, because it's such a bright colour and such an optimistic colour. And I like it when things match. So I love how it matches Jodie's hair. I love how it matches her personality. I love how it matches the new Sonic's colour. Actually, that's something I forgot to mention last week. I love how we've got a yellow Sonic screwdriver, because it's nice to change around the colours. And obviously we've had blue in the new series, we've had green, we went back to blue with Peter Capaldi. Yeah, so I love the fact we've got yellow, and hopefully one day we'll have purple, we'll have... Would white work? Probably not. Rainbow, that would be an interesting one. Yeah, just go through the colours of the rainbow. I think that's really cool. Nathan Marlowe preferred Capaldi's TARDIS, but this one is okay. Looks better on film than the leaked photos I accidentally saw. Yeah, so I don't know exactly where I would rank this TARDIS in comparison to the others at the moment. Obviously, I've only seen it for 5 minutes, so it's a bit unfair to compare it to ones that have had years for me to become attached to. But I do have a big soft spot for Capaldi's TARDIS, especially because I was fortunate enough to actually step on it before it got dismantled, and that's the only TARDIS I've been on. Yeah, but it is definitely up there. I think it definitely beats all the classic Doctor TARDISes. Yeah, not that they're bad, but I just much prefer the new ones. More budget goes into them, I suppose. Elian van Oopseland has just joined. What did I miss? Well, you sent this. Jesus, you sent this about 37 minutes ago now, so quite a lot. And, well, hopefully you're still here and have caught up. But yeah, there's no point me reeling off what you've missed. Philip Hawkins, I'm not sold on the TARDIS interior yet. The walls look too dark. I lament the lack of different levels, and I don't like the crystals, really. I'll try and keep an open mind about it over the next few episodes. That's a shame you don't like it, Philip, but as I keep saying, to each their own, and the TARDIS isn't for everyone, really. So what didn't you like? You didn't like how dark the walls were, and quite a few people have mentioned that, actually. Yeah, the lack of different levels is a shame, because that is one of the things I loved about Capaldi's TARDIS. And actually, Matt Smith's one had that as well. Um, yeah, so that's a shame. But the show can work without the different levels. Like, heck, the very first TARDIS had only the one floor as well, and I think most of the TARDIS interiors only have one level. So it's not as if it's doing something completely radically different. But no, I do understand you lamenting the lack of levels. And you didn't like the crystals. I love the crystals. I love them. Again, it makes it organic. With the Ninth and 10th Doctor, it was a coral type of organic, and with this, it's crystalline, a bit like the Zylock from the Sarah Jane Adventures. But yeah, definitely keep an open mind because you never know; it may grow on you, and they may turn the lights up in future episodes. Um, Tia Martin. Anyone else annoyed at Graham's insistence on calling the Doctor Doc though? I'm not. I think it's quirky. What I do find weird though is I'm not used to Jodie being referred to as the Doctor. Um, and don't get me wrong, I do see her as the Doctor. I'm not being anti-Doctor because she's female, but every time a character says Doctor, I suddenly go, "Oh yeah, that's the Doctor." Hopefully, I won't be like that for much longer. Maybe it is just the fact that it's early days. Um, but yeah, it's weird. Whenever a character says Doctor, I suddenly get taken out of the episode and go, "Oh yeah, this is the character she's playing." Um, Doctor Who fan #1Whovian makes a good point about how Graham calling the Doctor Doc is similar to Ace calling the Doctor Professor, and that was something I like as well. I think I've only seen two of Ace's stories, but I like the fact that in their relationship she does call him Professor. Joel Johnson isn't too thrilled on the Stenza being the recurring villain of the series. They're not compelling enough as villains, from what we've seen at least. They remind me too much of the villains from Class. Some very good points made there, Joel. Even though I disagree myself, I do quite like the Stenza. I completely agree. That's a contradiction there. Ignore that. They're not compelling enough. Yeah, so what we saw in episode 1 was interesting, but I did mention last week they're quite a forgettable villain. But if they're built up over the coming weeks, I think they do have the potential to be a good villain. We'll just have to wait and see. But yeah, they are very reminiscent of the Shadowkin from Class. Cyber Doctor 1918. What did the paper mean about the little girl? I don't entirely know what you're asking there, Cyber Doctor, so I'm afraid I can't help out with that. TM Martin, is the TARDIS still sexy after the redecoration? Absolutely. Penguin was waiting for the lights to come on inside the TARDIS. Anyone else? Yeah, I was too, actually. I thought I was, as soon as the 13th Doctor walked into the TARDIS, I thought it would be like when Bill Potts walked in and would have panning back, everything's dark, and then the lights suddenly come on. So it was a bit disappointing that we didn't have that. But at the same time, that would have just been copying what the director did with Bill. And I'm glad, as I said earlier, that the camera got to follow the Doctor along and we got to gradually see bits of the TARDIS rather than it being shoved in our faces straight away. We actually got to see the walls first and then the pillars and then we got to see the console and then I think we had a wide shot. I really like that. Wow, so we've been almost going for an hour. Thank you very much for all your messages so far. Please keep them coming if you want to keep chatting. And I'll mention the poll again, both of them, which should be in the corner there. I hope I'm pointing in the right place. And I hope it's working as well, because I don't want it to just be me that's voting on it. That would be tragic. Green Emeralds, has anyone else ever said that you look like a cross between David Tennant and Matt Smith's Doctors? No, they haven't, so thank you very much for that. I will take it as a compliment. David Tennant especially is my idol, so I'd love to be like him. So thank you. Elian isn't sure about the Stenza either. Joel, the Stenza just seem like a boring warrior race. There's not much room to explore their ideologies. Interesting, yes. Yeah, you're onto something there. I don't know, we just have to trust Chris Chibnall, really. Sorry, I'm just finding things I can respond to. TM Martin, Green Emeralds and Dr. Blue. Oh, Dr. Blue does look like a cross between 10 and 11. He could host a regular after-show talk called Talking Who. Thank you, TM Martin. I would love to host a show. I'm not sure if I'd be any good at it. I'm barely any good at doing this. I like to think I'm okay at doing this, but I don't know. I do slip up every now and then. But yeah, no, thank you very much. Mr. Drago Man, Rusty equals poo emoji, poo emoji, poo emoji, poo emoji. Yeah, says it all really. God, so I'm 40 minutes behind. I've actually got worse compared to last week. Sorry, guys. I may try and speed up again then. How much of my points on here have I mentioned? Oh, I'll quickly go back to these points. Right, I'm quickly going to ignore the chat, guys. I will come back to it, don't worry. But I just want to get my points over and done with, and then that way I don't have to worry about what's on my screen. So we mentioned the title sequence. I basically thought it was beautiful, short and sweet. I loved the pulsing effect that we had at the beginning and how the title dissolves in. The theme tune, I said last week, was really cool. And I especially like the drums. I think it's drums that are underlaying the whole thing. I think I mentioned the opening 10 minutes. Yes, I did. How I loved how they begun the episode on 2 different spaceships, and you got to have the nice interactions between the Doctor and Yaz and Ryan and Graham, and then the Doctor's ship crashes and it's really dramatic. That was cool. I'm enjoying Jodie's Doctor, but like I said, I don't really know how to describe her at the moment. Obviously, we mentioned the TARDIS, and well, we've mentioned that quite a few times now. Yeah, so everything in here is just the different things I've already said. Fantastic ending scene that was just as good as the cliffhanger one last week, if not better, because you could argue that last week's episode was a bit scary in how it ended. Not scary, but obviously young kids would be worried about whether the Doctor will escape and all her friends. Yeah, this is something. I really like how the episodes are 50 minutes long now. You wouldn't have thought that 5 minutes would make much of a difference on the story, but it really does. They feel a lot closer to being films, even though, you know, the length is still far from being a film length. But it means you can have more character moments, but not at the expense of the plot, which is something I really appreciate, and I think it helped out in this episode. We talked about the series arcs. I think, yeah, we've got quite a few Stenza comments there that I've been reading out. And it does look like they're being set up to be the big bad of the series, with Tim Shaw maybe returning. And we've started to speak about the Timeless Child as well, that was teased. And I said my theory is that it's a secret sibling. Again, if any of you guys have just joined, let me know what you think the Timeless Child is. We've also had Susan suggested as an option. Character arcs I wanted to quickly mention as well. So not only do we have series arcs, but it looks like we've got nice character progressions as well. So we've got Ryan gradually coming to see Graham as a fatherly or grandfatherly figure. And I do think we're potentially going to get a romance between Yaz and Ryan as well. I forget exactly what happened in the scene, but there was a moment they shared together where they seemed to be were they flirting? I can't even remember the scene, to be honest. I just remember at the time I thought, hang on, this is leading on to something. So it looks like there'll be a couple, which is a shame in a way, because I did say I would love it if everyone remained friends this year. But at the same time, if they were to do relationships, I'd rather it be gradually built up than them already being established to be an item. Oh yes, Yaz's family got a mention as well towards the beginning of the episode, I believe. So yeah, we're gradually getting more backstory for her, which is good. And I'm not sure if you guys are aware, but today it was announced what episode 4 will be about. So we got the title, which is Arachnids in the UK. So that confirms what the villains are going to be. Giant spiders, basically. And the synopsis basically confirmed that the episode is taking place in Sheffield and we get to meet Yaz's family. So it'll be interesting to see why she doesn't get on with them. Yeah, so I think even though Yaz, we still don't know much about Yaz after 2 episodes. But I think come episode 4, that will be her episode. So by then we'll have a good knowledge of all 3 companions. We've already mentioned Ryan's dyspraxia and how it isn't forgotten about, but it's also not focused on too heavily. Cinematography, I'll be saying this every week, was great and brilliant. Every episode feels like a film now. And the locations were stunning in this episode as well. I love how they use South Africa and you've got real sand there. It's not all fake. What else? Yes, it was all sandy beaches they were on, wasn't it? I'm not sure if the water was an actual beach or effects. Either way, it looked really good. And yeah, the final thing that I wanted to mention was I love how the planet Desolation is basically just this death trap that has been created by scientists doing experiments against their will. I thought that was quite cool. And so very quickly, the dislikes before I read out your lovely comments. So I've already mentioned the series producer and director being in the title sequence. Don't really like that. I've mentioned the trailers, how I'm not really a fan of them. We've spoke about the villains. I couldn't take the Remnants seriously, and the robot guards are unoriginal and easily forgettable. I spoke about the absence of death and how it's something I like in episodes. But that's just me being morbid, really, so I can't fault the episode for that. This is another point. So Angstrom and Epso, the supporting characters of this episode, was it ever explained why they looked human? Because I didn't pick up on any explanation. Not that there always needs to be one, but I think it is starting to bug me when we have supposed aliens that look really human. It's fine for the Doctor because, well, it's the Doctor. We love the Doctor. But other characters, it's a bit lazy, really, to just cast actors, not give them any prosthetics or effects, and just go, yeah, give them an alien name and be done with it. I think I mentioned about the race and how it was a waste of potential, really. I didn't find it as exciting as it could have been. And going back to Angstrom and Epso as well, I didn't really care much for them, to be honest. There was good actors playing both of them. I've already mentioned about Sean Dooley and how I really appreciate him. But to be honest, I just didn't care what happened to these characters. I didn't care if they survived. I didn't care who would win the race first. I was just much more invested in seeing the Doctor and her friends cope with the situation. And then the final thing I wanted to mention is the score. It's still not really standing out for me. The music's okay, but I really love music when you have standout tracks that you can hum along to, tracks that make you want to actually revisit scenes just to hear them again. I think the end of the episode had good music when they were in the TARDIS, but even that I've already forgotten. But maybe that's just because I've only seen the episode once. So that's everything I wanted to say. So I can shut my laptop down and give you all my full attention. Nathan Marlowe. It's a small point, but I'm still not sure how the Doctor got those sunglasses and says she thought she got them from somewhere, but her pockets were empty before. Very good point. Yeah, looks like that's a plot hole, to be honest. Yeah, because she had empty pockets, didn't she, when she fell into the train? That's annoying. Yeah. No, I'm not going to like that scene when I rewatch it. Kincaid didn't like the cloth creatures, or their voices, or the way they were killed. Oh yeah, they were killed, weren't they? Got something in my lips. Sorry about that. Yeah, so they exploded, didn't they? They had the cigarettes, and the doctor clicked her fingers, and they blew up. I didn't mind that, to be honest. I quite liked it. Mr. Drago Man, I got so triggered when the TARDIS was shown to have changed the exterior already. Okay, fair enough. Um, Still something in my lips. Dead skin, that's what it is. Too much information, sorry. Right, so I am... God, we've been going for over an hour. And I am 50 minutes behind. Oh, this is hard. It's difficult finding the balance between reading out messages and saying my thoughts on the episode. I think maybe in future I'll have to begin with my likes and dislikes and then move on to the comments, but I don't like doing that. Oh, buttons come undone. I don't like doing that because, I don't know, I just want to get straight into discussing the episode with all of you. Right, let's see. Tracy Beacon Memories, do you think Doctor Who is going to survive as a show? As long as it keeps getting good ratings, then definitely. I mean, last week's episode got the highest series opener in years, so that's a good sign. Whether or not they were only there to see the first ever female Doctor remains to be seen, which is why this episode has a lot riding on it in terms of viewing figures. If this is like 4 million or less, then we should worry. But if it's anything above 6 million, I think we're fine. Mr. Drago Man, new theory. Dr. Blue killed the Time Lords because he likes death. I did. Yes, you've hit the nail on the head there. That is the series arc for Series 11. No, that's too dark. I say I like death. I don't in real life, obviously. But in the show, I just like... I don't know how I can justify it, to be honest. No, it gives episode stakes. So the fact that Tim Shaw killed people in episode 1 made him more of a menacing villain, and the fact that the remnants, whatever they're called, and the robot guards didn't kill anyone this episode makes me not care about them. So I just think death is a good way to raise the odds. Elion, I don't know why, but it felt like there were a lot more long talking scenes without any action than the first episode. You're probably right, to be honest. Although I don't know. I really don't know. Well, the first episode had that massive crane set piece that went on for, I think, 15 minutes of the episode. Yeah, so I think this episode did have a lot more talking scenes. Really, the only action we had... Well, the first 10 minutes was action, save for a few moments where there were people talking. Then we had the bit with the robot guards, but that didn't go on for too long. And then we had the remnants towards the end. So yeah, actually, you're right. Not much action. Yeah, so people are talking about the pockets being empty. And... Oh, thank you guys for voting in the poll. I'm finally seeing your messages about that. Yeah, I guess then I'll try and see if anything's finally coming up. Yeah, I'm new to these polls, in case it wasn't already obvious. So it will take me a while to get to grips with them. There's my face. Still saying 100% of people liked the Ghost Monument. Which is good, don't get me wrong, but I feel like it's still only showing what I voted. There we go, lovely. Right, so quick deviation to see the poll. So at the time of looking on this, the answer to the "What do you think of the Ghost Monument?" question I asked, 17% of viewers loved it, 55% liked it, 20% thought it was okay, and 3% didn't like it or hated it. So, well, obviously the immediate thing to take away from this is most people liked the episode but didn't love it. But then second place was people thinking it was okay but not absolutely amazing, which is fair enough, really, because it isn't an episode that stands out all too much. I don't think it's a bad episode, so it is a shame that 6% of people either didn't like it or hated it. But yeah, no, I think saying it's an okay episode is justified. Saying it's a likeable episode is good as well. And it's nice that 17% of people loved it. So I personally voted for I liked it because it wasn't perfect, but for me it was far from being bad. And then the answer to the second question, which episode was better? 57% of people said The Woman Who Fell to Earth. I thought that said 1% then. 11% of people said The Ghost Monument, and 30% of people liked them both equally. Interesting. So we've got a fairly, well, it's not exactly even, but it is spread out. There's at least 10% of viewers voting on each option. So yeah, most people like The Woman Who Fell to Earth. Interesting. Very nice. Thank you very much for voting, guys. Keep voting if you haven't already done so. It'll be nice to see how much this will change by. And obviously, the more people that vote, the more accurate a representation of the fandom it will be. But yeah, that's very interesting to see how everyone's voted so far. So we're talking about Tim Shaw. Oh, quite a few people voted. Thank you very much if you did so. Easter egg, Dr. Blue, sunglasses equals Peter Capaldi. Yeah, maybe that was intentional, why the Doctor had the sunglasses, even though it wasn't actually the Sonic specs, which I'm glad for because I was not a fan of the Sonic sex. Oh my god, I apologise. Well, there's nothing wrong with saying that word, but anyway, moving on. The Sonic specs, yeah, I was not a fan of them. So I wouldn't want to see them return. But I did enjoy the joke about who the Doctor got the shades from. What was it? Either Pythagoras or I forget. It was a woman, a famous woman. I forget her name. That was quite a funny joke. But as people have said in the messages now, it doesn't make sense because she had empty pockets. So that's a bit annoying. Oh, good question from TM Martin. Dr. Blue, who would you like to see as a guest star on Doctor Who? Recall James Corden. Yep. So there's been loads of brilliant guest stars on the show. But who would I want to see on it that hasn't already been on it? I don't know. What actors do I like? At the top of my head, I would like Daniel Radcliffe to be on it, because then it'll be like a nice Harry Potter and Doctor Who crossover. I'm sure there's plenty of other actors that I want to be on the show, but I literally can't think at the moment. J.R.A. York, do you think the things the cloth creature said to the Doctor will mean something later in the series? Almost certainly. And that's why I keep mentioning it being a series arc. I think quite clearly Chris Chibnall is setting up this to be an arc for the rest of the series, and maybe several other villains will mention it as well, or the Doctor may start to have flashbacks and remember something. That would be interesting to see. But yeah, and I'm really curious to find out what this timeless child is. Rory Grier, loved this episode. Good to know. Oh, the Doctor Who Expert 7. The planet being moved was one from the Stolen Earth. It was one of the 27 planets. Was it really? I'm going to look into that because that is a cool, fun fact. Thank you for sharing. Um, TM Martin, Chibnall said that the runtime of individual episodes will be extended from 45 minutes to 60 minutes, but this episode was only 45 minutes, right? Actually, what Chris Chibnall said was episode 1 would be 65 minutes and the rest of the series would be 50 minutes. And it seems like he was telling the truth because episode 1 was 63 minutes, which practically is 65. And this week's episode was, I think, 48, 49 minutes, which is well over 45. So he was telling the truth there. Planet being out of orbit. The teasers we got said things like Antiques Roadshow, Adipose 3, Shalakatop, Pyrovilia, Desolation. So I thought that was what it meant with the planet being gone. Yeah, I would love it if it was one of the stolen planets. Yeah, that would be really cool. Philip Hawkins asked this ages ago now, 50 minutes. I'm somehow falling further behind in time. Sorry, yet again. Why would you not like it if they recast Susan? She's Gallifreyan. She could have regenerated. Good point, Philip. I think it's more the fact that because we don't know for sure that Susan can regenerate, for now I'm sort of treating her like the first Doctor, in that she has a face that we've seen, and really that should be the face we see if she comes back again. With Bradley playing the first Doctor in Twice Upon a Time, but the whole time I watched that episode, I knew it wasn't the first Doctor, and I couldn't really establish it in my head. I treated him as a different character in a way, and probably for the best, because Stephen Moffat made him into a bloody sexist. But let's not go into that episode. Yeah. Oh, I'm still 50 minutes behind. Green Emeralds wonders what the purpose of Yaz is in this episode. Well, they don't always have to have a purpose, to be honest. Like, the companions are there. Well, they're usually there by choice, and in this episode they were just thrown into this situation. So there will be times where they won't really have a role, they're just there to talk, and that's reflective of real life, really. We don't always have a purpose in what we do. Sometimes things just happen, and you have to deal with the situation. I'll admit she didn't really do much, but she's a character, at least. She was there. Doctor Who fan #1 Whovian rates the episode 9 out of 13. Interesting score. Nathan Marlowe makes a very good point. Has anyone else noticed that the episodes from World Enough and Time to the Ghost Monument have happened in order with no breaks for the Doctor? Yes, I've definitely noticed that, and I think that's a really cool, fun thing linking both eras together. And in a way, it's a shame that presumably this is now going to be broken up with the next episode, unless the Doctor ends up in the past by mistake, and this is their first trip since the Ghost Monument, in which case this will continue, and then maybe even episode 4 will take place immediately after episode 3, and it will just keep going. But that would be really cool to binge watch, actually, all those episodes back to back. But yeah, I especially liked it because the Doctor, up until last episode, was wearing the exact same outfit, and somehow, despite all the sweat and the exploding and the action and the running and the tears, it was still intact towards the end of The Woman Who Fell to Earth. Yeah, so Tia Martin has linked in nicely to what I was just saying. Next week's Team TARDIS is going home the long way round because their first trip back takes them back to 1955 in the US, civil rights struggle, plus an encounter with Rosa Parks. Yeah, so I think it is being set up that way, really. that the Doctor is trying to get the companions back home, but they end up in 1955 America at first, and then they finally get back home. And then presumably at the end of episode 4, they all choose to travel of their own accord because they're addicted to the adventure at that point. But yeah, no, speaking of episode 3, I'm really excited for that one. Because I love historical episodes that focus on figures. It's weird, like I do enjoy historicals, but my favourite historical stories are the ones that have people like Vincent van Gogh, Shakespeare, Agatha Christie, the ones where they actually meet some celebrity. And yeah, so with Matt Smith and Peter Capaldi, we didn't have many of those episodes. And so they stand out a lot less for me, which is a shame. Oh God, how long do we want to be going for? Because we're almost at an hour and a half. Blimey. I'm glad that you all seem to be enjoying this and wanting to speak. So thank you very much. Just makes it hard for me to get through all these messages. Blimey, blimey. Dr. Collectible, what about dinosaurs on a spaceship? There was a historical figure on that, lol. Yeah, but they weren't the focus. I think this is the point I'm trying to make. I want them to be the focus of the episode, and that is exactly what episode 3 is going to do. At least I hope so. Well, it's called Rosa, so surely they're going to focus on Rosa Parks, but we'll have to see. Nathan has mentioned John Smith made the intro. I love that. I love it when fans get to have their input in the show. Oh, that was the name. Audrey Hepburn. Don't know what she's famous for, but I've heard of her before. But yes, TM Martin, I definitely think the show is getting a bit funnier. And that's what it needs, really. It needs to lighten up, because it did get quite dark and keep saying Keeper instead of Peter. It did get darker in Peter Capaldi's era. And yeah, I enjoyed it, but that's because I'm older, and as you get older, I think a lot of people get more drawn to darker shows, and I liked how my favourite show became darker, but I completely agree, it does need to lighten up a bit, because otherwise you just alienate lots of fans. And I want loads of people to watch Doctor Who. Or more people voting in the poll. Thank you very much. Motorhawk 2, I would rather not have a prologue because you can make a cup of tea or do something, and when you hear the theme tune you get to the TV and not miss out on the story. Good point, and I hadn't thought of that. But really, if you're that much of a Doctor Who fan, you should be ready when the episode begins. So you shouldn't have to be making a cup of tea or doing something. You should be there at 6:55 nowadays. Very weird time to start the show. And yeah, you should be ready and raring for the episode to begin with your tea and your biscuits or your dinner, if that's what you're having. I had hobnobs today throughout the episode. That was quite fun. Fun fact for the day. Yeah, so... But it is a good point. When you hear the theme tune, that is a good way to signal that the show is starting, and you've got 30 seconds to come together around the TV if you haven't already done so. Yeah, but I like having the teasing for what the episode is about. That's the only thing. Oh, all this mention of the polls makes me want to have another look to see if anyone else has voted. Green Emeralds, you are reading comments from 30 minutes ago. Perhaps it would be best if you had less fans. Yeah, maybe, but I love this. I think we've got a good number of people watching as well. So thank you for everyone that's stuck around. Right, let's see. I've more or less forgotten the numbers of what everyone voted for beforehand. I think it was 57% of people said they liked it. Yes, so that's now gone down to 53. I think 17% of people said they loved it, and that's gone up. I won't bore you with all the details. But yeah, so it seems at the moment most people liked the episode and most people preferred The Woman Who Fell to Earth. Cool. Lovely. So, how many minutes behind am I now? 45. I'm slowly catching up. Nathaniel Titley. I tweeted to Jodie how amazing her acting was in The Woman Who Fell to Earth, and she liked my tweet and she messaged me to say thanks for the kind words. That's very nice, except I know for a fact that Jodie Whittaker doesn't have Twitter, so I think you've been talking to a false account, I'm afraid. I don't know. Surfboarder 4, hi! Really enjoyed today's episode, but I think it was obvious from early on that the ghost monument was the TARDIS. How early did you realise? Sadly, I basically knew before the episode was even on, because I think on one of the many videos and tweets to do with the episode, someone speculated that the ghost monument was actually the TARDIS, and that got me thinking, and I think this person went into a lot of detail about it, and they turned out to be right. So yeah, I knew it was that before the reveal, so it didn't really surprise me, which is a shame. Geo said, Dr. Blue, hello old friend, here we are, you and me on the comments. By the time you read this, Rory and I will be long gone, about 25 minutes, but know that we lived well and we're very happy. Oh god, yes, you probably have gone now, because this was 45 minutes ago. I wish I had glasses on me, because I could recreate the 11th Doctor when he's reading the book, the last page, or in this case, the comments. I could be holding my phone and get all teary-eyed and take my glasses off. Anyway. Oh dear. But no, it is so bad how far behind I am. As I said last week, and no doubt will keep saying in future videos, I am sorry if I miss your message. I'm not doing it deliberately. It's just at this point, particularly in the video, there's just so many comments to get through, and I don't want to make this video too long. So I tried to restrict it to ones that stand out and ones that I feel like I can respond to. So it is honestly nothing personal if I gloss over your message. Geo, series finale spoilers. Tim Shaw has returned and is about to reveal the secret of the timeless child. The Doctor is captured and Ryan must stop Tim Shaw by climbing a ladder with Grandad. I think you've summed it up perfectly, to be honest. Okay, what I'll say, guys, I think I will try going until the 2 hour mark. So in English time, that would take us to 11 p.m. No idea what time it will be for any of you guys not watching in the UK. It'll be in. Let me know if you're not watching in the UK, because I'd like to know if this is a global thing or not. Elyon makes a good point. Just wondering, if the Doctor made her own sonic screwdriver this time, how did the TARDIS know to match the theme? Oh, is that another plot hole that we found? Yeah. Coincidence, maybe? Although that's a rubbish explanation. Yeah, no, that does seem very coincidental that it matches. Oh, I don't know. I just like the fact it's yellow, and as I said before, I like things matching. How far behind? Slowly getting there. Slowly. Tave C, what's my thoughts of Outside the TARDIS? I'll be honest, I'm never really fussed about the exterior. As long as it's still a police box, I don't really care as to... Well, I do care as long as it's a dark blue. I do love that TARDIS blue. Actually, there's my little TARDIS to demonstrate. So I always want it to be blue. I always want it to be a police box. Never really care about the detail of the actual telephone bit that opens up, or the windows, or if there's a sticker on the door. I don't really care for those sort of specifics. So I'm just happy as long as we have the TARDIS and as long as the interior looks really good. Nathan Marlowe, the TARDIS exterior is probably my favourite. Love the blue light on top and the new blue shade. I liked how the TARDIS opened the door for the Doctor when she didn't have a key too. Some very good points made there, yeah. I didn't pick up on the fact that the exterior colour had changed slightly, so I'll have to look into that. I thought it was more or less the same blue as before. And I didn't notice the blue light on top because, as I said, I never really noticed the exterior. I'm just happy that we have the TARDIS. And yet, no, I love the fact that the TARDIS opened willingly and it shows it's still alive, basically. Tia Martin, yellow is the colour of optimism that conveys youthful, fresh energy and confidence, and that's what 13 seems to all be about. Yellow also stimulates the left side of the brain. Again, a very intelligent comment from you. Thank you very much for that. Yeah, youthful, fresh energy and confidence. And that does perfectly describe the 13th Doctor. Tia Martin, I really want to know, how scary was this episode? What do you think of the strangling bed sheets? So, I didn't think the episode was that scary. But then maybe that's just me being an adult now, and not really finding many episodes scary anymore. But I did mention the bedsheet creatures. What were they called? Remnants. I did mention them earlier. I just can't really take them seriously. They appeared too late in the episode for my liking. Didn't kill anyone, so I never felt there was any stakes with them. And it's just weird. It's just weird that a cloth is a villain. No, not a fan. We've had worse villains, don't get me wrong. Oh, Joel Johnson is listening to this while working on the thumbnail for Council of Geeks review tomorrow. Shameless advertisement. Love these live streams though. Thank you very much. And good luck with your thumbnail making. I'll try and look out for that when the review is released. Examiku, you deserve more subs. Thank you very much. I'm happy with the number of subscribers I have, but obviously I would like more if people were willing to join. But no, I am happy with the amount I've got at the moment. Tia Martin, Dr. Blue, I know you don't like to see too many gender references in the show, but do you think the new TARDIS aesthetic is more feminine with the colours? Custard cream, machine and matching Sonic. I don't think it's more feminine, to be honest. I think it's alien, which is what we need from the TARDIS. And I keep mentioning I love the yellow. Is that all you were asking? Do you think the TARDIS is more... No, yeah, in all honesty, I don't think it's feminine. And I wouldn't want it to be feminine because, in a way, that is sexist. You can't just have it pink because the Doctor's a girl. You can't have, like, lipstick everywhere and all that because that's just stereotyping and making assumptions. And I think that would alienate both the male and female audiences because the males will think, yeah, this is definitely a girly show now. And the girls would theoretically feel annoyed that they've been stereotyped and assumed to like pink and, I don't know, whatever other feminine things they could do to the TARDIS. So I think they've done a very good decision in how to style the new one. Philip Hawkins has asked Tia Martin, what is feminine about custard creams? Yeah, that's a good question. I'm a big fan of custard creams and I'm not a girl. TM Martin agrees with what I said about the score. So for any of you that have recently joined, I basically said I like the score, but nothing's really standing out for me yet. Whereas with Murray Gold, in most of his series, bearing in mind he did 10, and it was only in the past year, I would say, yeah, his final year had virtually no tracks that stood out for me. Every other series would have tracks that would make me want to go back and rewatch scenes all over again. Yeah, and I'm just not really getting that with Segun's music. But there are moments where I like the music, but it's still not really standing out, if that makes sense. Elyon, why is everybody calling the companions friends now? It's starting to bug me. I can see where you're coming from with that, because I must admit I get a bit annoyed sometimes when they're called friends. But I think it's more a thing. Companions is a weird word. It sort of makes them subordinate, but the show always tries to say that the Doctor and the companions are equal. So I think this is why Chris Chibnall wants us to call them friends. And it also hammers home that it is a group of friends in the TARDIS. Okay. Elyon agrees with what I was saying about the deaths. It makes it more interesting. Yeah. And the thing is, I think in a weird way, like young kids enjoy the deaths as well. Because let's face it, we all enjoy being scared. Like you look at the very first. Actually, I was going to say in the very first Dalek story back in the first Doctor's era, the Daleks killed people, but did they? Because I think they did. Yeah, no, I'm pretty sure they did. Yeah, so kids enjoy being scared and they love to see death, or at least I hope they do. Okay, I'm gradually getting there. Gradually. Slimmy007, this episode was beautiful visually, great cinematography. I haven't checked if the budget is bigger this series, but this is the best New Who has looked in a while. Yeah, completely agree. You can definitely tell it's got a bigger budget. They're changing of filming style. They changed the lenses, I think, that they use. That makes it definitely look a lot crisper and better quality and just more cinematic. Yeah, so it's all paid off. The only downside is maybe this caused there to be less episodes in the series. I don't know for definite. Maybe it was just Chris Chibnall couldn't be bothered to write as many episodes. Another drink. Oh, am I 20 minutes behind? Almost. Slowly getting there. And I've got about 17 minutes left. So if you have got anything you want to say about the episode, if you haven't voted in the poll yet, quickly do it now, because I'll check it right before the end. Any questions you want to ask me about the episode or anything, quickly fire away. Tia Martin likes my choice of guest star. I said I would like it if Daniel Radcliffe could be in the show. Oh, how about Eddie Redmayne or Dominic Cooper too? Yes. Benedict Cumberbatch is another one that springs to mind. I'd love it if he could be in the show. Just any famous Hollywood actor I would adore to be in the show, really. Yeah. I love it when the show has guest actors, and especially when it's ones I know, which is why I was looking forward to today's episode, because I knew Sean Dooley. TM Martin, Dr. Blue, I miss Grace, Graham's nan. Do you think her death will be undone with some time tinkering? Or maybe a shape-shifting alien will take Grace's form? Could Graham or any of us handle that? Now, interesting question you ask there. And I'm not sure if I actually mentioned this in last week's stream. So I've been thinking quite a bit about Grace, because before the show was broadcast, it was announced that that character would be recurring. Um, so recurring means appearing in multiple episodes, whereas guest means for that one episode. So I do feel like Grace is coming back in this series, but it's just how that we don't know. The way I see it, there's two options. Two, and I hold up one finger. Two options. Option one is that they undo her death, and we have yet another Stephen Moffat circumstance where he just brings a character back and completely undoes the notion of death and upsets me in the process because I don't like it when that happens. Or we get option two, which is, and this is the option I really hope they go for, because I think you can tell some really interesting stories with it as well. When they return to Sheffield in episode 4, it now seems, they arrive before the events of episode 1. So Grace is still alive, but the interesting thing is none of the characters can prevent her death or tell her, or she can't even meet the Doctor because that will undo everything that happened in episode 1. And yeah, so it adds an extra layer to the episode. You'll have the spiders, or whatever the villains are, and then you'll also have Ryan and Graham and the Doctor wanting to help this really kind woman change her death, but they can't because it will stop. It will just change all their adventures up until that point. So that'll be really cool, and that's what I want. And yeah, if she was just brought back from the death, brought back from the dead. There we go. It's been done before, and they would have to make it really convincing because I wouldn't believe it, and I'll just get annoyed, and I wouldn't ever trust a character's death in the show again. And in a way, I don't trust her death at the moment because of the amount of time Stephen Moffat brought people back from the dead. 20 minutes behind. Doctor Who fan #1Whovian had jelly babies throughout the episode, I'm assuming. Lovely, that's a perfect choice. Beats my hobnobs any day. Penguin put the chat on slow mode. I could do that, except I don't know how to, and I don't know how that would affect anything. Doctor Who fan #1Whovian. I've stuck around for the full live stream. Thank you very much. Hopefully you'll stick around until 13 minutes time when I wrap up. Geo, so glad you got to that last page reference. It would have taken me 45 minutes to explain myself. Haha. No, don't worry. I'm a true Doctor Who fan, just like you are. And I do vividly remember that scene from The Angels Take Manhattan. Oh, Lay the Nerd is watching from Finland. Hello. And it's already 1:35 a.m. Go to bed. Thank you for staying. But I think you need sleep. Go. It's fine. I don't mind. I won't be offended. Dave H. Dr. Blue, did you see my theory about the Timeless Child being a Time Lord? The Time Lords gave to the Stenza, so the Stenza doesn't attack the Time Lords, and the Timeless Child is the Stenza trophy. Oh my god, right, let me read that again. I didn't see it, first of all, in answer to that. Being a Time Lord, the Time Lords gave to the Stenza, so the Stenza doesn't attack the Time Lords. That is a very interesting point, and I like that, and I think potentially that could be what Chris Chibnall is doing. So basically you're saying there's a timeless child, well, there's a child on Gallifrey who the Time Lords offer up to the Stenza so that the Stenza don't attack, and that's presumably why the child is forgotten. Because everyone maybe chooses not to dwell on it because it's one of their darkest days when they've sacrificed this kid to save the whole planet. I like that. The more I think about it, the more excited I get over it. So well done, Dave, on that idea. Zoriac Life. Am I the only one that wants to see the Candyman on the original show? I haven't seen the episode that has the Candyman in it, so I can't really comment on that. Yeah, a few people mentioning how there was a reference to the waters of Mars. In fact, I think there was a line that was exactly taken from that episode. One of the characters said, "Don't touch the water, don't even drink it." And I think it plays out exactly like that in the waters of Mars in terms of dialogue. Casey Link, a handkerchief will be the next villain. Probably. I hope not, though. I think one cloth-based villain is enough for the show, really. My love for Doctor Who. Hey, hello. Nice to see you. It's just a shame that I'll be wrapping up in 10 minutes, but hopefully you don't mind watching over some of this. I don't know. I've no idea who actually watches this the whole way through and who just sticks around live. I don't mind. I'm just happy to speak to people, but like especially with last week's video that ended up being 2.5 hours. Good on any of you if you actually watched the whole thing. I haven't even done that yet, and I usually watch my videos multiple times over to make sure I don't like mess up that much. But yeah, no, this is nice. I didn't think we would be talking for this long, to be honest, so thank you very much for all your messages. TM Martin is given some viewing figures facts, I believe. Jodie Whittaker comes in second for Doctor Who launch viewing figures. Christopher Eccleston was number 1 at 9.9 million. Jodie's at 8.2. David Tennant is 8.0. Matt Smith is 7.7. And Professor Capaldi, hopefully you mean Peter Capaldi there, got 6.6 million. Yeah, so that is a really good sign. But then I think I kind of knew the first episode would get high figures because it's the first ever female Doctor. And let's face it, this series has had such a brilliant promotion. There's been billboards, there's been trailers, there's been magazine articles, there's been Spotify adverts for all us youngsters. Yeah, so I kind of expected quite a few people to watch that episode. It's just this week's episode, or today's episode, I should say. If this gets really high viewing figures, that's a really good sign. Slimmy007, I hope this series is more of a reboot than changing to the Moffat era. Would like to see new designs for the recurring monsters and hopefully less callbacks than how Moffat's era got by the end. Yeah, I do enjoy callbacks and returning monsters, but at the same time, I do love to see new villains, which is why I enjoyed seeing Tim Shaw last week, because it just shows how creative a writer can be. But obviously, I don't enjoy it if we get something as naff as a cloth creature. Oh dear. Yeah, I don't think I like the Remnants. Zoriac Life, the Timeless Child could be the Master, because he was the only Time Lord that saw the Void and became insane, so he is timeless. I know he died, but it wouldn't be the first time a Time Lord resurrects. Good point, and I did actually read an article before beginning this stream that more or less said the same thing as you. Although personally, I don't want it to be the Master. I think I said in last week's video, I do love the Master as a character, but I found his/her ending in The Doctor Falls to be perfect, and I really want the character to be left alone now for a few years, just so that we can have other great villains instead, like maybe bring back the Rani or Omega, because these are villains that haven't been in the revival series. But yeah, the Master had the perfect ending, and she stabbed herself in the back and exploded. And I know that Master is good at cheating death, but I do feel like you need to have a good explanation for how the Master got out of that situation, and I doubt Chris Chibnall would want to dwell on it. Geo thinks Stenza, the name Stenza, is really familiar. Has it been referenced before? Yeah, I feel like it's familiar as well. Maybe it has been referenced in one of Chris Chibnall's previous episodes, but I really don't know. What time is it now? Oh, 4 minutes behind. I'm getting there. Mr. B Natural, custard creams could be the villains. Yeah. That would be scary, because then we couldn't trust any biscuit. Penguin, can't wait to see how the 13th Doctor's character develops. Really hope it blossoms, but doubt it will reach Capaldi's level. Yeah, I'm sure she will blossom. I mean, she's doing a really good job at the moment. But I'm not sure what you're saying about reaching Capaldi's level. Do you mean quality, or do you mean his level of darkness and... I don't know. I've no idea. Dr. Collectible has just finished rewatching the episode and thinks it's so much better on a rewatch. Good to know. I think generally what I'm going to do every Sunday now, I'm going to watch the episode live when I can. I then spend an hour or so reflecting on it and working out what I want to say in the live stream. Then I do the live stream at 9, and then just before bed I watch the episode a second time so I can understand it better and better formulate my thoughts. So I look forward to watching that later on tonight. Angel of Rock, what are your opinions on the new TARDIS? And would you like to see the Weeping Angels return? So the TARDIS I've talked about quite a lot in this stream. So if you want to hear my exact words, please do go back to the beginning, because I do think I mention it fairly early on. But a brief summary is I really like it. I really like the yellow. I really like the darkness. I like the style. I like the custard cream dispenser. I just think it's really good. Oh, and then as for the Weeping Angels returning, at some point, provided they're given a good story, I think that's my answer to that. TM Martin, oh, that's not a question for me, so I'll move on from that one. Alien, Daleks and Cybermen are not in this series, right? Correct. Unless Chris Chibnall is lying, in which case they may be. Oh god, starting to lose my voice, guys. Or coughing at the very least. I don't lose my voice. I just end up having to cough every 5 seconds. So it's probably best that I wrap up in the next 2.5 minutes. So, is there any... Casey Link is going to watch the episode after this. Nice. Not too long to wait now. You'll be pleased to hear. Tim Martin, another awesome live stream. Thank you so much, Dr. Blue. Lots of lightning bolts. Hopefully we get to see you and hear your review and thoughts next week. Bravo. Thank you very much. I presume you're leaving now, so farewell. Dave H, did you find out what the red light was on Ryan's hand last week? I watched the episode again and don't know what it is. Thank you for bringing this up, because I completely forgot about this. So I actually watched the episode for a third time with a good friend of mine on Thursday, and I asked her about it, and she thought it might be the light from the bike. So maybe there was a scene, part of the scene was cut, where Ryan picks up the bike light that may have fallen down from the tree and is holding that, and then in another cut shot he puts it in his pocket. So that's why later on he's got empty hands. That's the only idea we had, really. No idea what else it could be. Motorhawk 2, with Dave H's theory about the Time Lords, do you think it could have been a regular offering to the Stenza and Susan was going to be offered and the Doctor decided to run away with Susan? Very good idea. Quite possibly, although that may contradict Stephen Moffat's running away from the hybrid idea, but let's just forget that ever happened, because your idea is much better. Yeah, so a regular offering, and Susan was selected, but the Doctor didn't want to go down that route or allow it, so he ran away. That's a really good idea, yeah. But as I said earlier, the show does have to be careful. We shouldn't really find out why the Doctor chose to run away. That should always be a mystery, and we shouldn't really know much about his family upbringing. Oh, and we have gone for 2 hours. There we go. So I'll quickly look at these final messages, and then I will wrap up. Nathan Marlowe, the android villains in this episode reminded me of the android assassins in the flashback in The Witch is Familiar when Missy is telling Clara of the Doctor's flashback. They were invisible though. Interesting. It's been a while, a very long time since I've seen that episode, so I have no idea what they look like. But that would be cool if it's the same villain. Penguin, cheers for the stream, Dr. Blue. Very chill time. Thank you very much. Glad you enjoyed it. Tia Martin isn't leaving the live stream yet. I want to hear the poll results. Cheers. Ah, lovely. Right, I'll do that in a second. Zoriac Life. I really don't like how everyone in Moffat's stories were special. I do like this normal people thing. I completely agree. Yeah. You couldn't connect to a lot of Stephen Moffat's characters because they just didn't feel like real people, and they all had, especially in Clara's case, she had the whole Impossible Girl arc where there was loads of her existing and no one could really relate to that. Yeah, so that's one advantage Chris Chibnall has over Stephen Moffat, the fact that he can write characters you actually believe. And then the final message on the chat is from Angel of Rock, saying Timeless Child equals Jenny. I'll close that chat down somehow. Do I click on that? No, that... Oh no, that would end the stream. There we go, hide the messages. Yes, so you thought the Timeless Child was Jenny. Possibly, although personally I don't think Jenny will come back in Chris Chibnall's era. I think she's had her chance to come back. Russell T Davies was the one that introduced her as a character. He never brought her back. Stephen Moffat was the one who actually encouraged Russell T Davies to not kill her off at the end of The Doctor's Daughter. So that's why for years I thought he may bring her back, but he never did. And as far as I'm aware, Chris Chibnall had no involvement with that character. So I think we're just going to have to accept the Big Finish audios as the continuation of her story, not anything else. Oh, I feel rude turning the chat off, so I'll quickly put it back on. Cool. Right, so quickly doing the poll results, and then I will be heading off. So, the final result, unless someone quickly votes after I've read out results. So the first question, what did you think of the Ghost Monument? 20% of people said they loved it. 55% of people said they liked it. 17% of people thought it was okay. 2% of people didn't like it. And 2% of people hated it. So the common theme here is that people liked the episode. Over 50% of people. And as for the second question, which episode was better? Oh, just above 50% of people, 51 to be precise, preferred The Woman Who Fell to Earth. 15% preferred The Ghost Monument, and a third of people, 33%, liked them both equally. So there we go. Very interesting. Thank you very much for all of you who voted in the poll. I do appreciate it. And to all of you that chatted away with me in the messages, I do appreciate it. And it's nice to talk to all of you. And so, yeah, I guess this will be a weekly thing, as long as people enjoy watching all these. And I'm rubbish at ending videos. I'm really unnatural at it. But anyway, thank you very much for watching. And I'll see you next week for episode 3, Rosa. Bye.